Storms and heavy rain pushing through metro Atlanta this Sunday morning, causing flooding and bringing down trees and power lines. We're updating you right now on where that storm is now and how many people are still in the dark across the metro. Our weather team has kept you up to date on this system all week as it approached. Our Chris Holcomb and Julie Martin have been tracking this system all morning long. Let's start with Julie on the latest right now on the storm's track. Julie.
Well, Blaine, this line of storms has weakened as it's now pushed east of Atlanta. We are still looking, though, at certainly some heavy rain throughout much of the viewing area. Right now, we're looking at some of the stronger storms well off, though, to our east, just about out of our area entirely and about to cross the state line. However, taking a look here at Jasper in through Putnam counties, we're looking at Eatonton getting hit with a pretty heavy round of rain by around 9:35 this morning, 9:14 for you here in Willard. Another area we're getting some heavy rain in the McDonough area here in Henry County. Mostly just heavy rain here, not looking at any severe weather associated with this. Nonetheless, you're going to want to watch out because flooding is certainly a huge concern. For us in the metro area, mostly just moderate rain right now, although I want to take you back in time a little bit and show you around 5:15 this morning, a very significant line of storms pushing through the area. There you see all of the red on the radar, and we actually saw winds in excess of 40 to 45 miles an hour with this, and obviously some damage and power outages to go along with it. Now the big threat will be flooding. Chris Holcomb is tracking that now in our weather information zone. And Chris, it looks like it could be a long-term event.
Yeah, even though that severe weather threat is over and the rain is beginning to diminish somewhat, we still have a lot of runoff and time for these creeks and streams to rise a little bit more as we go through the rest of the morning hours and also into the afternoon. We have a couple of active flash flood warnings still. I want to focus on this one first. Up for North Fulton County, also into parts of Cherokee County, Cobb County, Forsyth County, and there in parts of North Fulton as well. In these areas, we've had rainfall totals more than 2 inches, and the ground is already saturated, so that's why a lot of those creeks and streams are rising. Now, we also have some individual flood warnings along specific creeks and streams. That one at the top of your screen is where we have the Little River at Woodstock. It reached flood stage at 11 feet and is continuing to rise. Also on Big Creek and Alpharetta, as that flood stage and rising most likely is going to reach crested about almost 10 feet a little bit later on today. Also in DeKalb County, we have a flash flood warning that's in effect until 11:15, and all over our area, everything you see there in green is where we have a flash flood watch until 1 o'clock. So the threat mainly here is now with the additional rainfall and the runoff coming from that. Even though the rain is ending, creeks and streams will continue to rise a little bit more. We'll continue tracking this and look at some of those specific rainfall amounts and the big blast of cold air coming in. We'll talk about that coming up.
All right, Julie and Chris, thank you both. Well, right now, crews are working to clear a T that toppled, causing major problems for some residents in DeKalb County. Our Ryan Kruger is live on Braithwood Road in DeKalb County. Ryan?
Yeah, Blaine, the damage is pretty extensive. We're taking a look here. This is just one of several trees in this neighborhood that are down. If you look over, the tree actually fell on this power line here. So needless to say, power is out in the neighborhood. One more big tree I want to show you. This one right here. The unfortunate thing is every tree in this particular yard went down, but that is a big, healthy tree that went down, so it's very unfortunate to see. The damage is pretty widespread in the neighborhood. The good news is, even though some of the trees did fall on houses, the damage to those homes, the structural damage is very limited. No injuries that we have heard about. That is the good news. Power is out for these residents. Obviously, you saw some of the power lines that were knocked down. We did talk to one gentleman who just moved in. He kind of described what he heard overnight. Let's take a listen.
And all of a sudden I heard this really loud wind sound, train kind of sound, whistling through the house, and I looked out the front window and all of a sudden I saw the transformer just explode and sparks flying from that, and that's when all the power went out.
And here's the real unfortunate thing. That gentleman you just heard from, Chris Murphy, he moved into this home 15 days ago. The folks that live over here that just lost all of their trees, they moved in just a month ago. So certainly Mother Nature is giving them a rough welcoming to the neighborhood. Live in DeKalb County, Ryan Kruger, 11Alive News.
All right, thanks so much for that update, Ryan. Meanwhile, in North Fulton County, emergency crews spent much of this morning clearing this mess that you're looking at right here on Hightower Trail Road. That's in Sandy Springs. A tree fell across the road, bringing down some power lines with it. And meanwhile, Marietta police are warning drivers earlier this morning to avoid Allgood Road because of flooding. Water is causing some traffic to detour near Cameron Creek Drive. Flooding was also a major problem for drivers headed southbound on I-75 this morning. Here's how things looked around 7 this morning near Langford Parkway southbound. GDOT says that 2 of the right lanes were closed due to water on the roadway. Well, the storms have knocked out power to hundreds of Georgia Power customers. At the height of the storm, more than 2,600 people statewide were in the dark. Roswell Road was one of the largest hit outages, with about 400 customers left without electricity. A lightning strike left 1,600 neighbors powerless out in Mableton. Their lights are now back on. We just checked with Georgia Power, and we know that there are still about 1,400 people without power right now. Crews working to restore power to those folks. Remember, if you do have some problems, you can report outages directly to Georgia Power's website. And also, of course, remember that you can get up to the second updates right here on your smartphone from 11Alive. Just download the 11Alive News app and look for live radar. Well, this morning that we've learned that the condition of the Metro Police Chief's wife has been upgraded. Margaret McCullum is now in serious condition. She's been undergoing treatment at the Atlanta Medical Center since being shot by her husband on New Year's Day. Peachtree City Police Chief William McCullum says he accidentally shot her in their bed. Chief McCullum has not been charged, but he is on leave. The GBI is investigating. Meanwhile, Gwinnett County fire crews are looking into what sparked a fire at a vacant home in Lawrenceville. Authorities say that a passerby called 911 after seeing flames shooting from the home on Payton Drive. The homeowner said nobody had lived in that house for more than 2 years. Part of that house collapsed, making it a total loss. The good news, nobody was injured in that fire. Well, also in Gwinnett County, authorities have charged a suspect connected to a murder on New Year's night. Police say that Quindarius Morton turned himself into police yesterday. Investigators say he shot and killed 22-year-old Reginald Bienami at the Reserve at Ivy Creek Apartments. That's in unincorporated Buford. Police found the victim inside the car, shot several times. Morton faces felony murder and aggravated assault charges. Well, later today, we're expecting to learn more about a deadly plane crash in Kentucky, one that left a 7-year-old girl as the only survivor. The National Transportation Safety Board is expected to give a media briefing today at the site of that crash. Now, after the plane went down, 7-year-old Sailor Gutzler walked a mile through the woods in the dark, stopping at the first home she could find to call for help. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has more on her remarkable story of survival.
The door knock took Larry Wilkins by complete surprise.
I opened the door and this little girl was standing there with a bloody nose and bloody legs and bloody arms.
Standing before him, 7-year-old Sailor Gutzler.
Her voice was quivering. She told me, she said, her mom and dad were dead and she was in a plane crash and the plane was upside down.
Incredibly, Sailor had survived and had walked about 3/4 of a mile through cold, dark woods before knocking on Larry's door. Killed in the crash, her parents, Marty and Kimberly Gutzler, her 9-year-old sister Piper, and her 14-year-old cousin Sierra Wilder. Relatives say Sailor used the plane's burning wing to light a branch so she could find her way through the woods and get help for her family.
The 7-year-old has just come out of the woods alone.
Police rushed in but had trouble finding the aircraft.
She's upside down in an aircraft that's crash landed. She is in shorts, a t-shirt. She's 7 years old. She has broken bones. She pulls herself out of an aircraft. She's in a place she doesn't see any lights. She walks through thorns, briars, a 12-foot ditch, creek bed, and continues to walk in that environment with no shoes on until she sees a light at a house.
On Friday, the plane had taken off from Key West, then stopped to refuel in Tallahassee en route to Mount Vernon, Illinois. The small Piper PA-34 was at an altitude of 1,800 feet when it reported engine trouble and lost contact with air traffic controllers just before 6 p.m. local time. Within minutes, it crashed near Catawba, Kentucky.
It was raining in the area, and although the temperatures on the surface were around 50 degrees, at cruise altitude for an airplane of this type, he would be close to the freezing level, and that's where you can pick up icing, sometimes at a very rapid rate.
In the family's hometown of Nashville, Illinois, utter heartbreak. Marty Gutzler was a flight instructor, a pilot for 30 years who had gotten his pilot's license before his driver's license. He had even taught his kids survival skills.
This is just a devastating loss to our community.
Tonight, federal investigators are trying to determine exactly what went wrong. And Larry Wilkins is thankful he answered the door.
She done good. She's a brave little girl.
Now, that was NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reporting. Sailor is now staying with family members from Illinois. Well, we're going to go back to our weather center now. Our Julie Martin has been looking at this wet weather all morning. Julie, what's the very latest?
Yeah, I'm here in the weather center with Chris Holcomb. We've been tracking these storms all night long. They have weakened considerably, now pushing well east of Atlanta, but we are still looking at the possibility of flooding being a real issue throughout the day. This is our flash flood watch. It extends until 1 o'clock. All of the areas you see there in green. We also have some flash flood warnings. Chris is tracking those. I'll be tracking the radar, all coming up when we come back.
Welcome back. This morning, grisly discoveries in the search for the wreckage of an AirAsia flight. Crews have now found the 31st victim of that crash. Teams have also located a 5th large object that's suspected to be part of that wreckage. Today marks the 8th day of search and recovery efforts. Crews are moving the primary search to the east as ocean currents shift debris and also shift bodies. There's still no sign of the airplane's black boxes. Also later today, a funeral will be held for the 2nd NYPD officer gunned down in Brooklyn last month. Hundreds of uniformed officers attended Saturday's wake for Officer Wen Jin Liu. A Chinese ceremony will be led by Buddhist monks along with a traditional police ceremony. Meanwhile, an American healthcare worker exposed to the Ebola virus overseas is now heading back to the U.S. for treatment. Last night, Nebraska Medicine in Omaha announced that it will be accepting the patient later today. That patient was exposed to Ebola virus while caring for victims in Sierra Leone. Officials say the patient is not sick and is not contagious. Nebraska Medicine cared for 3 American Ebola patients last year. 2 of them fully recovered. The 3rd did not survive. With the debate over medical marijuana raging here in Georgia, hear how something called Charlotte's Web is now attracting more families to Colorado. Plus, Julie Martin, Chris Holcomb tracking the storms all morning as they move out of our area, and some big temperature changes coming this week. Your full forecast after the break. Stay with us.